Hey everyone. First, I'd like to thank you for clicking on my video and listening to me share some of my life experience with you. I hope you can find some information useful and make a better informed decision for yourself. With all that being said, let's get into it. When I went to college, I was not a broke college kid. I was able to get my college paid for while making a decent income. In this video, I want to talk about the first steps I took to get college paid for, how much college would have been if I didn't get it paid for, how much I made in college, and how that income was broken down. Let's first talk about the first and biggest step, and that is getting college paid for. The first step in getting college paid for is joining the military. I know, not an easy or small step. Joining the military is a big commitment, but in the long term, it can be a great decision to set yourself up for success. And I'm not going to sit here and say the military is fun or enjoyable. For some it is, but for most, it is do your time and get out. In a future video, I want to talk about picking branches, picking your MOS, and setting your life up for even better success by using the military to your benefit. In most cases, recruiters are liars and snakes and should not be trusted, which is sad since it's the first interaction you have with the military. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. I did my 3 years in the Army and got out. After I got out, I worked a little bit before going to college. One of the benefits you are entitled to as a veteran is the GI Bill. So, what does the GI Bill do for you? This is not something that was explained well to me, so I'll go into depth about it. The GI Bill gives you 36 months of schooling. You can get more than 36 months of schooling if you file for an appeal with the VA and are close to finishing your education. And when I say schooling, I mean any form of education. Bachelor's, master's, doctorates, trade school, police academy, the GI Bill will cover it. If it is a state school, there is a higher cap amount on tuition than if it is through a private school. Then there's a lower capped amount. If you do go to a private school, you can apply for the Yellow Ribbon program to cover the rest. With the GI Bill, you also get BAH, and that is calculated on the zip code of the school. So, what does all this mean? Let me give you some examples on how it's broken down. Let's start with your BAH. Base housing allowance is money you are paid to cover your housing. It is tax free and does not have to be used solely for housing. So if you live with your parents, you get to pocket all your BAH tax free. So how is it calculated? It is calculated on the zip code of the school you are attending, your rank, and if you have any dependents. To get the full BAH, you have to attend at least one class in person. I will give you some examples of BAH. For these examples, I'm going to use the rank of E4 since most people get out of the military with that rank. If you're attending the University of California, LA, you would get $2,400 a month in BAH if you do not have any dependents. If you do have dependents, that goes up to $3,300 a month. If you go to the University of Colorado, you get $1,800 a month without dependents and $2,400 a month with dependents. If you go to the University of New Mexico, you get $1,400 a month without dependents and $1,700 a month with dependents. So you can see how much it can differ depending on the zip code of the school. For me, I was going to a school that gave me $2,100 a month with dependents. My wife and I got an apartment for $1,300, so I was able to use the $800 left over for other expenses. So the first calculation on my income is I was making $25,000 a year tax-free in BAH. So the other thing I want to talk about is the 36 months of schooling. This is how long you can go to school for using the GI Bill. You can take breaks, but you will not collect BAH. So for me, I got my bachelor's and master's all paid for because I was able to complete both within the 36-month time frame. I know this is not realistic for everyone, but it's just an example that I have that I'm giving you. The GI Bill doesn't just cover undergrad, it can cover your master's and doctorate. If you're planning to get your master's or doctorate, I would suggest using your GI Bill for those degrees because of how much more expensive they can be compared to your undergrad. With the 36 months also, that's not a hard and fast rule. You can also appeal to have an extension. So I was 2 months away from graduating with my master's and I appealed to the VA and they granted me 2 more months of schooling. The other item I want to talk about is state schools versus private schools. With the GI Bill, there is a higher cap on tuition with state schools versus a private school where there's a lower capped amount. So that's just something to consider when determining what schools you want to go to. For me, I went to a private college and was able to stay under the amount for my undergraduate. However, when I started my master's degree, cost per credit doubled, and I got really close to the cap one year and was over the cap my last year. Uh, this is when I applied for the Yellow Ribbon program, and the Yellow Ribbon program is a program that will cover the rest of your schooling if the GI Bill does not cover it all. The Yellow Ribbon program is only for private schools. Without the GI Bill, my schooling would have costed me over $120,000 in total, but because of the GI Bill, that was all paid for because of my time in the military. That is how I got free college, but I want to talk about how I was able to make more money on top of this with financial aid and scholarships. So before I went to college, I applied for FASFA. FASFA is federal financial aid to help you with college. I got around $15,000 per year in financial aid. The school would get paid around $5,000 at the beginning of each term for tuition. Well, since the GI Bill covered my tuition, there would be $5,000 left over, and the school would mail me a check for $5,000. So in total, if you add $15,000 to the $25,000 from BAH, my new running total for income per year is $40,000. I also applied for various grants and scholarships, which totaled about $20,000 a year, which the school again would mail me a check. So this would bring my running total up to $60,000 per year I was making. I also worked a part-time job, making about $26,000 a year, bringing my final yearly income while I was attending college to $86,000 a year, all while having my college paid for. So just to recap, if you have already served or are thinking of serving, I would strongly suggest using your GI Bill. You paid for and earned that benefit. Use FAFSA. I know not everyone's qualified for it depending on your situation, how old you are, whether you're married or not, and how much money your parents make. But I would strongly suggest applying for it since it is free money. I would also suggest applying for scholarships and grants, even if you have the GI Bill, because again, this is free money. Don't feel shame for using money in scholarships and grants. These are here to help you, and people set them up to use them as tax write offs. So it's a benefit for both parties. That is all I have for you today. If you have any questions, please comment below and I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities. College does not have to be this thing you go into debt for or you are broke during your time in college. If you play your cards right, you can do very well for yourself. I hope you have a blessed week, and I'll talk to you on the next one.